What's up, guys? I'm Dr. Zach Geiser with GT Performance, and today I want to talk about one of the biggest complaints that we get whenever people come in for an evaluation, and that's the complaint of hamstring tightness. So everybody thinks that they have some degree of hamstring tightness, and so I want to give you a quick and easy way to screen and say, hey, you know what, I actually do have tight hamstrings, or maybe my hamstrings aren't tight and something else is going on there. So what the hamstrings do functionally is they take you into hip extension and knee flexion. So this is when they're contracted. This is when they're at their shortest position. So if we lengthen them, we need to take you into hip flexion and knee extension. So we have Coach Cody here, and he's going to serve as an awesome model. We're going to take him into 90 degrees of hip flexion. I'm going to try to get my body out of the way so you can see here, and knee flexion. So we have hip flexion, 90 degrees of knee flexion, and then we're going to try to straighten this leg out, keeping that hip at 90 degrees of flexion, and try to straighten that leg out as much as you can. You can see Coach has a little bit of a limitation right here, because ideally we'd like to see most people approaching 0 degrees of knee extension, which is this leg going straight up and straight down. So we can actually quantify that and get a number. So I'd say most people, we'd like to see you be able to approach 0. I don't need to see you right at 0, but coming somewhere around 0, minus 10, somewhere in that range. Anything above minus 20, or I guess I should say below minus 20, is something that we're going to address early on in our programming. So what we do, we go ahead and grab that leg again, go ahead and relax. We have our goniometer that we can line up and measure what range of motion we have here. So Coach has been working on this actually, and so he's actually getting much better here. So he was previously at about minus 45, and now he's at about minus 30 right there. So when it comes to addressing this in his programming, we're not necessarily going to crank him into stretching all day. We're not going to crank him into static stretching all day. Recent literature has shown that strengthening at end range is just as effective, if not more effective, than static stretching for improving range of motion. So we're going to try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and we're going to do some sort of dynamic stretching, whether it's our band hamstring series, something along those lines, just to expose him to a new range of motion, and then do some strengthening at end range, something like a feet elevated hip thrust, single leg feet elevated hip thrust, single leg RDLs, something that's going to make him contract at a more end range position in order to make that range of motion stick, quote unquote.